Coming to paperback and e-readers, John Haynes' Godbreaker. The man who rules the world takes on the Asgardian god of thunder in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Pre-order your copy of John Haynes' Godbreaker at online booksellers today. A group of migrants here in New York City is refusing to leave the Midtown hotel where they have been staying to go to a shelter in Red Hook, Brooklyn.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jessica Moore. We begin with breaking news. Some asylum seekers are pushing back on a plan to move them to a new shelter in Brooklyn. Some even refusing to leave the Midtown hotel where the city has been housing them. CBS 2's Tim McNicholas is live at the Watson at 57th and 10th. So, Tim, what's happening out there?
Jessica, the city wants to move some asylum seekers from the Watson Hotel to a new shelter at the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal in Red Hook. Many of the men gathered behind me are saying they won't leave. The MTA is sending buses here. Migrants gathered outside the hotel are saying they won't board them. They say they're concerned about conditions at the new shelter. They say there's not enough space, they don't want to stay in Red Hook, and they're concerned they'll be cold there. Some asylum seekers got on with their belongings while other migrants shouted for them to stay. Earlier this month, Mayor Eric Adams announced a plan to move single men from the Watson Hotel to a heated shelter at the cruise terminal. These migrants are protesting that plan here alongside immigrant rights advocates.
The Hotel Watson had told them to get on buses at 7:30 this morning to go to the Red Hook Cruise Terminal, where the conditions are as bad or worse than at the Randall's Island refugee camp that was open a few months ago. And the men came immediately back and warned the other residents of the hotel and told them not to get on these buses.
Now, some of these migrants have been crowding around the door trying to get back into the Watson Hotel, but the hotel is not letting everyone back in at the moment. It's not clear if they will. The city is also claiming this protest was organized by local groups that have repeatedly sought to stop their efforts to help migrants. One of the groups here, Mutual Aid, says they didn't organize any of this and they're only here to support the migrants. Live in Hell's Kitchen, Tim McNicholas, CBS 2 News.
Interesting. All right, Tim, thank you.
Now, dozens of these asylum seekers or migrants decided to stand their ground in a protest outside of the Watson Hotel in Hell's Kitchen on 57th Street and 10th Avenue after they were told that they were going to have to leave the Watson Hotel in Midtown Manhattan to go to a new shelter that was being set up at the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal. Now, all of these individuals who were participating in this protest refused to get on buses to go to the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal, and many refused to even leave the hotel, demanding that they wind up staying at the Watson Hotel, a luxury hotel in the middle of Hell's Kitchen, and they wanted to stay at that one hotel instead of being moved to that new shelter at the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal. Now, when I take a critical examination of this protest that was taking place at the Watson Hotel, it really shows the audacity that some of these so-called asylum seekers have towards the United States of America. Because as people who are not citizens of the United States of America, it takes a lot of audacity to make a demand of a country that you are not a citizen of and are petitioning for asylum. I really think it takes a lot of gall to go out here and talk about demanding that you stay in a certain place because you are not a citizen and you have no rights like an American citizen does here under our United States Constitution. Now, I just find it really, again, offensive that you have individuals who believe that they have a right to demand that a country that you're not a citizen of give you what you want, and that just shows how entitled many of these so-called asylum seekers or migrants have become. Now, this isn't the first time I've seen this type of entitled behavior. I was watching a Paul Joseph Watson video where he talked about how asylum seekers in the UK had a similar sense of entitlement, and how even though the United Kingdom had gone out here and provided many of these asylum seekers or migrants room at luxurious hotels, many of these individuals were talking about how the food wasn't good enough, how the rooms weren't good enough, and these were rooms that tourists were spending hundreds and even thousands of dollars a night, and these individuals were just expressing their contempt for the services that were being provided to them, even though they were not citizens of the UK. And I've seen the exact same behavior being participated in by so-called asylum seekers or migrants here in New York City from previous reports where the city provided many of these asylum seekers or migrants food, and these individuals threw the food in the garbage and said it wasn't good enough, and also were sitting there saying that the services that were provided to them just were not what they wanted. Well, as I see it, that is an extreme form of entitlement because, again, as individuals who are not citizens of the United States, you do not have a right to go out here and make demands of a country that is hosting you out of compassion and could have easily treated you the same way an American citizen would have been treated had they crossed the border into their country. Because if an American citizen were to go to a country like Venezuela or Mexico or cross their border, that individual would not be detained by the immigration. No, they would be arrested by federales for trespassing, and that individual would be inside of the criminal justice system until they served their sentence and were deported back to the United States. That is the policy that is done in other countries if you cross their border. But here in America, we have people who have crossed our border, and instead of expressing gratitude for Americans going out here and providing them with the very best as related to hotels, the very best as related to food, the very best as related to accommodations, we have individuals who are acting extremely ungrateful, and these ungrateful individuals, they, instead of them expressing gratitude for being given a room in one of the best hotels in New York City, are protesting, talking about they don't want to go where they're told to, even though the place that they would be, if they trespassed into another country, they would go, is a prison system. Now, what I find to be really sad about this whole situation is while these asylum seekers or migrants are acting like they have a sense of entitlement, there are a group of American citizens who desperately would possibly be grateful for all of these services, but none of these American citizens can get any of that help. Now, many of our American citizens, like our veterans, many of them are homeless, and I guarantee you if you gave a veteran that room in the Watson Hotel, they would be extremely grateful for that room. And as they were in that room, they would be working towards rebuilding their lives, and they would be working towards moving themselves forward. Moreover, if you gave that same veteran that room and the Watson Hotel, or told them they had to move to a new place at the Brooklyn Cruise Terminal, that's former member of our armed services would go out here and move to that facility, because they have had to deal with all sorts of hardships in places like Iraq and Desert Storm, in Kuwait. They have had to deal with all sorts of struggles as related to facilities, and these individuals would easily move because they have to do what their commanding officer tells them to do. They have to deal with all types of situations in combat, and that veteran would be far more grateful than these so-called asylum seekers who want to just go out here and abuse, as I see it, our American hospitality, because that's what happens when you are an entitled individual. And another group that I believe would be grateful for that hotel would be many of our homeless Americans. But America doesn't take care of its own people. No, what we want to do is try to take care of other people's citizens. And when we do this, we show how much of an infidel the United States is to its own people, because it's really, again, just shows the lack of just gratitude that these individuals have, talking about, oh, we want to demand all sorts of conditions. Well, you're not in a position to make any demands. You're not a citizen of these United States. You are not entitled to anything. You are not owed anything. Matter of fact, you came here saying that you wanted asylum from an oppressive government. And how are you being oppressed when a nation is going out of its way to provide you with better services than many American citizens like myself, like our veterans, like many of our homeless individuals, and many of our unemployed individuals receive in this country? Critical question I want to ask many of those so-called asylum seekers who are complaining about being moved from a hotel to another facility, because there are many black men out here who cannot get any sort of services from our government, but they're going to give you a place in Red Hook, Brooklyn. And many of these individuals, they're upset because they won't be able to stay in Midtown Manhattan. They're upset that they will have to sleep on cots. These men are upset about these things. And again, when I look at how our veterans are treated, these guys were doing better than our veterans. And instead of expressing gratitude about what they have received, they are out here looking to protest, to demand better. And again, that is really audacious when you consider the way homeless veterans are treated in this country, men and women who have served our country. We have disrespected them, and these people, these asylum seekers, show us how they do not appreciate what they have received from our government. Now, this whole situation with these asylum seekers, or these migrants, really seems like something that happened as a result of this back and forth between your blue and red party. And I really have to say that the main reason why we have this problem is because New York's Mayor Eric Adams mouth wrote a check that his ass couldn't cash. Now, New York Mayor Eric Adams, at the start of his term, could have easily avoided all of this by not looking to try to brown nose to other politicians, but your cream of wheat man, the New York's own George Jefferson, had to go out here looking to pander to those white politicians, and he decided to keep Bill de Blasio's dysfunctional policy of talking about New York City being a sanctuary city, hoping to get brownie points with white politicians like Joe Biden. And that's the reason why we have the Red Party politician, Greg Abbott, who decided to send him several busloads of these so-called asylum seekers, because in his border towns, they were dealing with millions of these individuals. But as they were shipped here, New York Mayor Eric Adams decided to continue running his mouth until he actually had to provide resources and services for these individuals. And as he only had to provide resources and services for only 40,000 out of the millions of individuals that come to Texas every year, Eric Adams wanted to say that he was feeling overwhelmed, and he wanted to go out here and petition Joe Biden, demanding that he give him $2 billion a year in order to take care of these 40,000 so-called asylum seekers. And Joe Biden hasn't said a word, the same way George Jefferson never said a word to when he begged Mr. Whitendale for money to help him expand his business. Now, Mr. Whitendale never paid George Jefferson any attention, and Joe Biden has paid Eric Adams no attention, as the city has went out and said that it would be on the brink of bankruptcy if it had to continue dealing with these asylum seekers or these migrants. And they said that the city was on the brink of bankruptcy because of just 40,000 migrants, not understanding that Greg Abbott is dealing with millions of these migrant individuals who have entered the country illegally. But we don't see Greg Abbott begging Joe Biden for any money, but we see Eric Adams crying and complaining. And as he cries and complains, he basically shows how weak he is as a leader, how weak and directionless he is as a man. And now what he's looking to do is trying to dissuade many of these individuals from coming to the city by giving them these conditions as related to the Brooklyn cruise terminal, where people will say they will be cold, they will be uncomfortable, and what he wants to do is passively allow people into the country, but aggressively make it uncomfortable, because what has happened is his mouth has written a check, his ass couldn't cash, and now he's hoping to try to dissuade people from coming into the country and coming to the city. But he could have, again, avoided all of this had he not run his mouth. And sadly, what's happened here with these asylum seekers is they have become pawns in a political game between New York Mayor Eric Adams and Joe Biden, because I can't say Greg Abbott is a part of this anymore, because all he's doing was sending a message letting him know, look, this is overwhelming. You guys say you're sanctuary cities. You said that you could provide asylum for these individuals, and we clearly see that the city of New York could not provide asylum. No, their mouths wrote a check that their ass couldn't cash, and now that their mouth wrote this check, they're trying to find ways to get out of paying it, and that's what we're seeing now. And now that they're trying to find ways out of it, we have the asylum seekers looking to try to find a way to make people pay up on a check that would be void, because these individuals, again, are not citizens in this country, and since they are not citizens of the United States, they are not entitled to anything at all. No, they're not entitled to anything, and they don't have a right to go out here and protest when you're getting things as related to the compassion of the American people, who have gone far beyond, as I see it, the city of New York went far beyond giving people the very best. I mean, you're staying in hotels that tourists are waiting months and even years to go out here and pay for and save money for. But we have individuals who want to sit there and get upset that they were given far beyond what they deserve. And again, a sense of entitlement, feeling they're owed something. And that's one of the big problems with this whole sanctuary city policies. You're giving people more than what they are owed. And again, that creates a sense of entitlement. And when a person has a sense of entitlement, they go out here and look to abuse things. This is what I ran into myself when I used to give out free ebooks online on platforms like Smashwords. When I used to give out free ebooks online, there were a group of people who wanted to sit there and say, oh, this book isn't long enough, this book isn't big enough, oh, you should write a longer book. And again, this is the type of entitlement mindset that Americans here in these sanctuary cities, these politicians, are putting into people's minds as related to the United States. And these individuals, what they don't understand is when you spoil someone, they feel like they are owed something that they did not work for. And again, it's something that many of these asylum seekers now have this sense of entitlement, where they have been spoiled by Eric Adams, they've been spoiled by Lori Lightfoot and other politicians in the Blue Party to believe that they are owed things that they did not earn, and that they're supposed to be given the very best. And all because many of these individuals, their mouths continue to write checks that their ass can't cash, because they want to stick it to another member of another political party, all while neglecting the needs of we, the people who voted for them. That is the whole troubling thing about this whole situation as related to the Watson Hotel and the protest. We have a group of spoiled individuals who believe they are owed something that their grandfathers and great-grandfathers never would have thought when they came to Ellis Island. No, when many people came to Ellis Island, they never felt like they were owed anything. No, they only had the clothes on their back, and they came here looking to earn something, not be given something because somebody told them that there was milk and honey here. No, they came here understanding they had to put in work on something. But what we have here are entitled individuals who feel enabled by our government's blue party to believe that they are owed everything, but you're not owed anything in the United States, which is supposed to be a country where people are supposed to work for what they want. And again, when I think of people who are owed something, the people who are owed something are our veterans who went out here and paid the price for protecting this country in wars, the people who put their lives on the line for this country in wars, the people who look to protect this country every day. But we treat our veterans like absolute garbage, and we won't think about giving our veterans the kind of treatment that New York's Mayor Eric Adams went out here to give to many of these so-called asylum seekers. If we treated our veterans with that type of respect, maybe we wouldn't have problems with recruiting individuals for our military today, because the way we treat veterans in this country is reprehensible. The way we treat our soldiers is just absolutely just disgusting. And I just get absolutely disgusted when I hear things like our soldiers who serve this country not even being able to get their benefits. And we have people who are not citizens coming to 5-star hotels, but they're going to sit there and tell us, oh, that's not good enough for them. If they get moved to another facility, oh, they're going to be cold. Well, many of our veterans, when they were soldiers, they had to endure cold, they had to endure heat, and they had to do so under the authority of a commanding officer, and they didn't complain a minute about it because they understood they were serving a great country. But we have people who are not citizens who are coming to our country and telling us that having to deal with hardship is not something they want to do, but they want to be citizens of this country. Again, you want to come to the country to get benefits, and that's why I believe that if you want to end the whole situation with all of these asylum seekers, you end the welfare in this country, you end the freebies, because once you end the freebies, once you end the welfare, what happens is nobody wants to come here. Because I remember one country, I believe it was Hungary or one of them, he ended the benefits, and once he ended the benefits, nobody wanted to come to that country ever again, because they knew that there would be no benefits. They could not demand anything, and that ended the deal. But when I look at this whole situation, it reminds me a lot of a divorced wife and a divorced husband, and the back and forth that they have using people as pawns. And it just shows how petty America has become and how just dysfunctional people have become, that they're sitting there talking about, oh, that you have a non-citizen demanding things, whereas a black person, when we demand tangibles, we get ignored. When a veteran demands help, they get ignored. When a citizen demands help, they get ignored. And America's treating its citizens like second-class citizens, because again, when you have individuals who are not citizens getting to stay in the best hotels and then getting upset to protest, it shows how out of touch our politicians have become. It shows how people are just running around, just being dysfunctional. And again, shows me that Eric Adams' mouth wrote a check that his ass couldn't cash. And now we're all paying the price of a politician who ran his big mouth and didn't know when to shut the fuck up. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the link in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my positive black fiction on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Haynes series, and the books of the Spinsterella trilogy, you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them in other online bookstores like Smashwords, the iBook Store, and Google Play. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and e-readers, Spellbound, A Darker Shade of Black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller.